Welcome to Paradise Lost, our new Tallarn cityscape for Warhammer 40,000.
Anvil of War! Tackling terrain!
So today we proudly unveil our new cityscape. It's set in a Tallarn, Middle Eastern, desert world style. I love this table. It was a riot building it. It was a riot putting it together and just kind of watching it come to life as I found pieces and assembled it. First of all, I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor, Sequence Comics and Gaming in Brockville, Ontario. They provided us with a whole bunch of the Kill Team sprues from their store, and we had enough to do this plus some more, which we're working on a urban city as well. Being that we had several kits of the Kill Team set, the Sector Imperialis, the new Warhammer 40,000 Sector Imperialis terrain, I gotta say I love this stuff. The scale, the feel of the terrain, the detailing, everything is great. It's something that you would expect from Games Workshop. The scale is something I really, really want to focus on because it is a lot more realistic than in compared to their old City Fight stuff. Their old City Fight stuff was a lot shorter, more representative. It wasn't properly representing the scale that you would expect from an Imperial city. So when I had all these sets, trying to figure out something to do with it, I knew I wanted to incorporate some of this terrain into the Tallarn city set. And I decided that I was going to assemble it all into these long, narrow sections and make three that would be able to extend across an entire 6 foot by 4 foot Warhammer 40K or whatever other game system you want to use it for table. And it would be able to extend across the whole table and create sort of like a city wall that would be sort of the first line of defense to an invading army. And I wanted it to look blasted, like it took the brunt of an invasion or of an attack. So you'll find that the three pieces forming the wall have all the battle damage on it, and then the city is relatively untouched as the army moves in to take the prize and take the loot. I don't know why, but I totally had orcs in my mind when I was thinking about them just kind of invading, or Necrons. Maybe it's Tallarn, so Necrons invading this whole city, taking out the defenses and then moving into the city and taking out the people inside. So when I was designing it, I knew I wanted some Middle Eastern kind of feel to it. I wanted some influences from Middle Eastern architecture. So my first thought was the classic domes that you see on Middle Eastern, the mosques and other buildings. It's not just a religious thing. The more I researched it, the more I found out about these things. They're actually designed for cooling and keeping the temperature inside buildings cool. So I never knew that, and now you do, if you didn't. The idea for these came from that, and when I was kind of looking around and trying to find things that would fit the bill for it, I came across, your classic, I took a half sphere of styrofoam for these, and that was just an easy dome shape. And it was really simple, but I wanted something that was a little bit more elaborate to go on the Gothic ruins from the Games Workshop set. So I was playing around. I bought a couple things to play around with to see what would fit. The style of these domes is a little bit more, I'm going to say it's almost a little bit more Orthodox, kind of Russian feeling. So when I found them, at first I played around with it, but I just kind of fell in love with them the more and more I looked at them on top of these buildings. So I decided, you know what, it's the 41st millennium, anything goes, and this is a desert planet in the middle of a galaxy with orcs and Eldar and whatever else. So you know what, I don't need to be, it doesn't need to be accurate to Earth architecture. And I felt they kind of give that whole Middle Eastern feel pretty well. So rolled with it. They're ceramic pots. They're actually from a dollar store. They were ceramic little flower pots. And I think I got them for $1 or something. And Yeah, they're ceramic. So I broke one. I shattered one in the process of figuring out how to do this. And then I wrapped it with some more cloth so that when I broke it, it wouldn't completely shatter. And took chunks out and just kind of had the debris falling. And then there's a little engine on the inside. As I said, these things are meant for cooling. So I put a little engine for like a little air conditioner or something going on in there. And then the tops, the little circle parts are from the Sector Mechanicus, and then brass rods, and then some other extra Games Workshop bits, and then some beads again I got from the dollar store, just to give them that little those little spheres that are on the toppers for the domes in classic Middle Eastern architecture. So. Moving on from the what I would call the main centerpiece of the table, which is the 3 wall sections that stretch across it, into the city, we have these buildings. Now, we were fortunate enough to be gifted these at the Capital City Bloodbath in Ottawa. The Canhammer guys gifted us this. We provided some terrain for their event, and they had some extra terrain lying around left over, and they had this set of MDF terrain, which was beautiful. I hadn't really worked with a lot of MDF stuff up until that point, this point, and I wasn't a huge fan of MDF terrain just because I thought it was really limited, and there wasn't a lot of creativity you could put behind it, but they're getting better and better, and there's all these detailing, the windows, the bars in the windows, and the ability to take them apart. So, I mean, the roof comes off, this roof comes off. You can place troops inside, which is very, very handy and adds another level of complexity to the tactics in your game that you're going to use. Having the ability to actually go inside the buildings and them not just be giant line of sight blockers on the table. So what I wanted to do was create this kind of city and have it all kind of plain, kind of concrete, have a kind of concrete look to it, and then have the wall be the sort of the decorative portion. And then in the center of the table we have the statue, which stands proud and represents the Imperium on the planet. So we have, with these specific buildings, to give them the texture of looking like concrete. Again, MDF is very flat with the exception of the etchings and everything that can go into it. So I wanted to give it a little bit of texture, so I took some cork board and ground it up in a nut grinder, creating almost like a dust. And then and I've been doing this for a little while now with for various other uses, basing, etc. More on that. But this is a way to give a little bit of texture, so when you're painting the buildings, first of all, it just gives a little bit more depth, I find, than just painting a flat surface, personally. So the trees, bought those on eBay. I found them online. They came in, they were very, very plain. Not a lot of detail or texture to them. They're just the green and then the very beige plain bases. So hit those with some Agrax Earthshade just to give it a little bit of texture, and then painted the brown little coconut looking things at the base, and I kind of wanted to give that a little bit more texture because Middle Eastern palm trees have a lot more like husk and stuff like that around the top underneath the palm. So when I was painting that up, I wanted to go with dark shades of brown, and again some more Agrax Earthshade just to give it a little bit more a darker feel that you would expect from a desert palm versus something that would be found in the Caribbean. The little cacti that you'll find around the bases of all the buildings, and mixed in with a little bit of lichen. There's a lot of this little lichen just kind of scattered around. I wanted them to look like, I don't know, little desert foliage. But the cacti are actually from a jar of, like a decorative jar that I got from the dollar store. And in the jar you can find a whole bunch of crushed shells, and I think there was some nuts, some dried nuts and stuff in them. And then throughout them there were these little cacti, and I don't know what they actually are. If anybody recognizes them and could tell me in the comments, that would be awesome, because I had no idea what they were. I couldn't find out what they were, but I liked them. They looked like cacti, so they went on. They fit the Middle Eastern desert world look, and we just kind of ran with it. So the table was designed, again, like I said, to be kind of a city. We're moving into the city. The main city buildings are left relatively untouched. The main wall has been destroyed. An alternative way to set up the table and to create a really large sort of middle section of the table is to align the two wall sections and the main wall section on the corner of a table or on the edge of a table, and you can create sort of like a palace wall type thing with the statue in the middle, and that could be kind of like a last defense going on in that building, and could be kind of like a makeshift fortification for games if you chose to go that route and play the narrative side of the game. So alternatively, I tried to keep the approximate table space that the whole set takes up on a 6x4 table to be both available for competitive play, but also available for narrative play. And I like to try to find that happy medium. And if you want more terrain, you can always flush it out with some scatter terrain. You could always throw a couple scatter pieces on there just to some craters, etc., just to, yeah, flush out the table. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Sponsored by
Thanks again for watching Anvil of War Gaming. Consider subscribing to our channel by clicking the icon on the screen, or check out some more of our videos. Thank you. I just figured I'd get a jump on packing some of this.